You can sell your washer, dryer, cars, or even your home with no per-item fees. And you can use Skype, make a video. You can actually see the person you're buying from, or they can see you, all to better sell your product. Wouldn't you like a feeling of security when you buy or sell? That's why we call it buysellmakeoffer.com. And you don't have to wait until January 15th to find out what the buzz is all about. Go right now to buysellmakeoffer.com and type in your email address so you'll know exactly when the fun will begin. The first 30 days are on us, and then it's as little as $7.95 per month to sell up to 50 items. Join the revolution in online selling with buysellmakeoffer.com.
What have I learned so far? I've learned that dropping out of high school was my decision. But as a single mom, that decision affected more than just me. To set an example, I had to be the example. I found a free high school diploma program at Learn for Life that fits around my busy life. I have a team of teachers, tutors, and counselors that really care. I learn at my pace in an environment that is safe and comfortable. What have I learned so far? I've learned that I can change my life.
Are you 14 to 19 years old and looking for a free high school diploma program with flexible meeting times? This program allows you to keep your job or important family responsibilities while earning your high school diploma. If you've fallen behind on credits or dropped out of school completely, get back on track with free tutoring, a caring faculty, and one-on-one attention. For more information on how to reach your graduation goal, visit learnforlife.org. That's LEARN4LIFE.org. Or enroll today by calling 877-360-LEARN. That's 877-360-LEARN.
Kcaa invites you to listen to professional money manager Bill Gunderson every weekday morning from 7 to 8 a.m. Bill Gunderson is a highly respected money manager. He's a regular contributor to MarketWatch, TheStreet.com, and Town Hall Finance. Gunderson has appeared many times on the Fox News Channel, the Fox Business Network, and CNBC. You can hear Bill Gunderson's daily insight into the market at 7 a.m. weekdays, right here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind. Psst. Hey, you. Yeah, you. Do you know where you are? Well, you've done it now. You're listening to KCAA Loma Linda, your CNBC news station. So expect the unexpected.
Talks back. I'm Wallace Allen on the case for truth, justice, with the right information to help improve the situation. Folks, you know we're here in the city of San Bernardino. We've had our trials and tribulations over the years, the city of bankruptcy. Now we've been bankrupt in terms of our safety. We've had a shooting that took place. I know unless you were hiding under a rock that you are aware of it. We will discuss that today. We'll discuss the potential safety that can come to us if we work together. We have the world's greatest security expert, Mr. Greg D. Evans. He will be talking with us later. This is Empire Talks Back, brought to you by Covered California, not just healthcare, but life care. West Side Story newspaper, the soul of the empire, and the Improve Association, where referrals are real. We'll be talking with Mr. Greg Evans a little bit later in the show. Actually, we'll probably start the show off. We also have an opportunity for you folks who are concerned and uninformed or misinformed about Covered California. We'll have Mr. Dana Howard, the Deputy Director of Communications, come and talk to us a little bit about Covered California, how you can get involved and why it's important to you to do so. But first, we've got Mr. Greg Evans on the phone. We've got some concerns about ISIS. We've got concerns about, wait a minute. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Gregory D. Evans first. Folks, you know, I've had the pleasure of meeting some pretty important people, flashy people. I hung out with Jimi Hendrix for a couple of days, interviewed Stokely Carmichael, interviewed Muhammad Ali, talked with some people of relative importance. But I'll tell you what, never in my life have I met a person smarter than Gregory D. Evans, a young man that spent some time here in the Inland Empire as he's developed his expertise and moved on to become one of the best, if not the best, cybersecurity experts on the planet. And we're blessed to talk with Mr. Evans today. But I tell you what, while I'm talking to him, you might like to go to GregoryDEvans.com so that you can experience a little bit of this young man's genius. You can listen to us on the radio and still hear some of the great tips that he gives for security purposes for your computer, cyber expertise, your telephone, the whole deal. Mr. Evans, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. That was a nice introduction.
Well, man,
we've known each other over what?
Over
20 years?
Over 20 years, and I tell you, during the 20 years, you've always been the smartest guy in the room. I can say that. You're not always the best.
I can't say that.
You weren't always the best basketball player. You know, you weren't always the best basketball player, and being 20 years older than you, there's some something to be said about that. You could probably straighten me out now, but I can remember the time. But never.
I couldn't beat my mentor on the basketball court and then expect you to continue to mentor me.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna yield because you probably are the only person I know that's buttery tongued more than I am. Greg, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to talk to you. I really appreciate the fact that you've decided to be able to spend a little time with us this morning. Greg, we had a shooting here. These people have been operating undercover in San Bernardino for who knows how long. That they've been doing it with the intent of doing dirt to the people of San Bernardino. We've got our NSA that's been picking up all telephone calls. We are definitely not super private with our privacy. What's going on with this great security, this privacy that isn't taking place? Why can't we catch these people before they do these things? Or should we expect to? Should we be looking more at defending ourselves once they show up? You're the expert on security. What are your thoughts on this issue?
Well, first of all, let me say I'm still shocked that this happened in San Bernardino. My brother calls, who works over at the VA in Redlands, and he said that, hey, we're on lockdown. There's a shooting that just happened. I was like, really? So, and when you think about San Bernardino area, you don't think about terrorism. You don't think about that being a hot spot for terrorism at all. So when I turned on CNN, I didn't even have to change the channel to CNN. It was on every station that there was a mass shooting in San Bernardino. And I'm still not catching that it would be a terrorist attack. We know a lot of the gangs and crime from Los Angeles has moved to San Bernardino over the years, and it was a great place to live, like we talked about 20 years ago. So I didn't see this coming, and I didn't think it was a terrorist attack. I just thought it was workplace violence. But then, after the investigation and they start bringing out more and more, I realized, hey, it was a terrorist attack. Mm-hmm. But it was more of a lone wolf attack.
It appears that way.
These people didn't have direct ties to ISIS, trained, like a sleeper cell, and they were not so far with the information that I just saw this morning on Meet the Press and some other stations. They were just people who were supportive of ISIS.
But
and
Greg,
those are the ones that we have to worry about here in the United States.
Greg, there was a report from the neighbors that there had been a regular gathering of young men over there, 4 or 5 men at a time, and that they would go down to a local restaurant and eat. The way that house was set up, the way they found those guns and ammunition, I doubt if the postman could have walked inside and not figured out what was going on or that something suspicious was going on. So it appears that we've got 4 or 5 young men walking around who were frequent visitors of the shooter's house. If there is a cell, how will we find out about it? I understand that the police found a couple of smashed up cell phones that they are saying belong to the shooters. Let's look at that though. First of all, it hasn't even been a week. True.
There's a lot of different stories that are coming out. A lot of new information and misinformation. There's a lot of eyewitness testimony, and then a lot of testimony, well, it wasn't really eyewitness. My friend was up there, or my relative was up there, and they told me this would happen.
After you told everybody you were there, then we find out that, well, no, I wasn't really there.
They really weren't there.
Yeah.
And I will say this, though, and I'm going to go into the details about the scary part about this, but I have to give San Bernardino Police Department a pat on the back. I really do. Because, and working with the feds and all that training and that money from Homeland Security to train everybody in case of a crisis like this, they found them pretty quickly. They didn't take them days to find these people.
That's right.
They were already at their houses.
That's right.
They were there within hours. They started pulling names. They knew all of this. We got this information the same day. So I have to give it to San Bernardino Police Department, doing a great job on that.
Well,
now, here's the problem that every American is going to have, and it's going to be super hard for you to point the fingers at our federal government, FBI, local police, Obama, or whoever's president, and say, why did you let this happen? It is hard to stop a lone wolf.
Okay.
You don't know who a lone wolf is. Even though I'm not, I'm on the phone right now talking about this. You don't know if I just, as soon as I hang up, go grab a weapon and walk into a place and do a mass shooting, and then you point the finger at the federal government like, well, how come you didn't know about this person?
Right.
Well, one thing that people don't understand, and I blame a lot on Hollywood, is that when you watch these television shows, these TV shows are TV, they're entertainment. So when you're watching FBI agents or CIA agents and they're surveilling a person, I heard a report by an FBI agent that says it could take up to 56 different people, okay, to keep an eye on just one person 24 hours a day.
Well,
now,
yes.
Why so many? I'm not sure. But we don't have, there's 300 million people in the United States. We don't have enough officers, trained officers, to keep an eye on every individual here in the United States.
Mr.
So
Evans.
what happened?
Mr. Evans, let me tell you why the TV has so much power. I remember some 20 plus years ago, I was speaking to a young man and he was telling me things about how we could use the telephone, the cell phone, which had just come out. The first time I'd ever seen one without, a big suitcase attached to it was because of this young man. And this young man was telling me how we would be able to make news alerts on our telephone and bring people into the telephone to read and hear the news and watch the videos mobily. And this was some 20 plus years ago. So that young man was you. Now,
right.
This was before anybody else was talking about any of these things. So, Greg, when we speculate that with all of the other things that you and the government and people who are in high tech are able to do that we have no idea about doing, let alone whether it's actually being done, we are able to expect that, well, the government is 20 years ahead of us. Greg, you are 20 years ahead of us. And the government's supposed to be ahead of you. But I suppose that's why they bring you in. That's why they bring you into training.
But we're not ahead of the government. The government is not ahead of us for two reasons. One, budget.
Greg, I'm going to
get a budget passed.
We're going to talk about that right after this break. Why the government is not ahead of us and why we are as responsible for our progress in technology as they are. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen, on the case for truth and justice with the right information to help improve the situation. I'm speaking to the greatest hacker of the past. He's no longer a hacker, but he knows how to. And we're trying to get him to hack us into some real information about how to protect ourselves under this terrorist threat. We're speaking to Mr. Gregory D. Evans, and we'll continue this conversation right after this short break.
Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get sad again.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
Imagine that you're among the 4 out of 5 people who received help paying for quality health coverage through Covered California at the lowest possible cost. Imagine seeing a doctor for everyday aches and pains, unexpected emergencies, and preventative care. Imagine receiving help finding a health plan that's absolutely right for you and your family. Imagine not having to imagine.
Covered California. It's more than just health care. It's life care. Visit CoveredCA.com to find free, local, in-person help or enroll online by December 15th to have coverage by January 1st.
For more local radio every day, tune into KCAA Loma Linda.
Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Say it again.
War, terrorism. What is it good for? I don't know. We're gonna fight it. We're gonna do our best to bring ourselves under control so that we can do those things necessary to assure the safety of our country, our children, our cities, our us. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. Empire Talks Back is brought to you by Covered California, not just health care, but life care, and West Side Story newspaper, the soul of the empire, as well as the Improved Association, where referrals are real. We're speaking with Mr. Greg D. Evans, the computer cyber expert that has taught the FBI, the National Security Agency, just about anybody that.
Well, hold on, not the NSA, not the National Security. I've done all the federal law enforcement offices. NSA is not considered a law enforcement officer, even though they may have had a person there at the training.
Are they more in the category of crooks like I've called them in the past, or should I lighten up?
Who, the NSA?
Yeah.
You know what? Oh, my gosh. Don't make me get upset with you and everybody like you.
Well,
you guys want to sit back and let me tell you something.
Straighten me out.
I'm going to keep it real with you
Straighten me
and
out.
all your listeners. The NSA, you guys get mad when there's a terrorist attack. You want to sit there and tell the government, why didn't you know that they were going to fly planes into the doggone World Trade Center?
Right.
How come you didn't know they were going to shoot up Paris?
Right. You're listening to every damn phone call, listening to every phone call on the planet. You ought to know something.
Understand this again. Misconception. You are sitting there listening to or watching television.
Okay.
Only in Hollywood do they show you in the movies that the NSA is listening to every phone call, and if you use the word bomb, ISIS, terrorism, kill,
right,
all of a sudden your call is being recorded. Now, let's get rid of the myths here. One, there's not enough people to listen to every phone call.
We're not talking about people. We're not talking about people. We're talking about.
You can talk about
we're talking about a machine recording it, and they can go back and get to it.
Here's the problem, but you got to hear me out.
Okay.
Here's the problem. The government does not own the phone lines. They don't own AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, your local telephone companies, Comcast.
Okay.
You're getting it through AT&T Internet and the home phone and all that bundle deal. They don't own all of that. They don't own voice over IP. Not at all. With the government, the federal government's not even allowed to spy on, like the NSA, on Americans and listen in unless they had a federal warrant. But the NSA, like the CIA, it cannot operate within the United States. They listen through on satellite phones and overseas of other people's phone calls. But not here.
I want
to make sure
misunderstanding.
Listeners understand that they're not listening to your phone calls. And if you hear some static on the lines, which there's no static anymore because all the lines are digital, that the government is listening to you. They're not. Now, What's really upsetting, and I'm not saying that I'm so pro-government, I'm trying to defend them, it's common sense. And what's common sense is this. The NSA, all they wanted is we just want copies of a phone bill, everybody's phone records.
Okay.
And they had to request that from all the different phone companies. Now, if the NSA was listening to your phone calls, then they would have already had copies of your bill. So they had to request copies of everybody's bill. And the reason why they wanted everybody's bill is for what just happened in San Bernardino.
Okay.
Which is,
and
these guys, let's keep it real. You said that one of the neighbors said there was 5 people that was always over there, right, at the house.
Well, yes, frequenting the house and going to a
Okay,
local restaurant.
So here's the deal then. What the government would do is they would look at these people's cell phone bills without getting warrants instantly.
Mm-hmm.
That same day, they would, if America had allowed it and didn't stop the program.
I like how you said you guys.
Pull up. Excuse me?
I like how you said you guys and then backed off and said if America had. But go on, I'm with you.
Well, because what they would have done is put these guys' phone bills in to the computer, and then it would have pulled up all those guys those 5 other guys that were coming over to the house and they were going to a restaurant. Then they would have found out who these guys are, all in the same day, all within the first hour of getting their cell phone numbers.
If they had simply been able to get the bill. So the fact that they found these smashed up phones in the trash, and the fact that I was watching a cyber telephone expert discuss telephones and how to protect yourself, and he was saying something about the SIM card, if you're able to pull the SIM card. I think that was you. As I was watching one of your videos on your website that is extremely informative. That's why I think I'm such a smart ass right now. I've been watching Greg D. Evans' cybersecurity information. I think I'm up on it. So if they take this SIM card, they're able to pull this same information, and do they need a warrant to do that? And if they need a warrant, maybe we should be employing some hackers who don't need a warrant to go chase this information down. What are your thoughts on that,
Because then
Mr.
our
Evans?
laws would say, how did you get this information? The defense attorneys for these criminals will go to court and say, how did you get this information?
Somehow,
these
Mr. Evans,
gave it to us.
somehow,
these
Mr. Evans,
were working.
Somehow, because maybe it's because I'm just a guy who's spent many decades being a person who has seen the police do pretty much damn well what they want to do, especially in my community, especially to young men who look like me. Man, once they get old like I am, maybe they give us a break and don't press us so hard. But young black men, the black community, hey, come on, the rest of the world.
Talk about black men. This has nothing to do with race.
Well, it doesn't. It does not at all. Except that as a black man, I'm a little bit more used to this intrusion. I'm a little bit more used to the idea that maybe some of my freedoms aren't really as free as. And so I guess I'm just expecting that the police are at least willing to treat the terrorists the way they treat black men. And that's
but here's the question, though. Until you've been treated like a terrorist, till you've been labeled a terrorist,
okay.
Until those people walked in there and shot up that place, they weren't terrorists.
You're right.
You didn't know that they were terrorists.
You're right.
Now, let me just ask you and all your listeners just one question. Just one simple question. Because this is the part that really ticks me off with America. Because America is just two-faced.
You mean Americans?
Americans.
Gotcha.
Let me say a lot of Americans.
Thank you.
You guys are, what's the word?
Well, you don't mind throwing us in a bag together, do you? You guys. Go ahead, Mr. Evans. Come with it.
Well, because when I say you guys, I'm talking about people like you who want to argue about the federal government listening to your calls, which they're not doing,
okay,
or getting copies of your phone bills to see who you're calling. Here's the problem that I have. The problem that I have is you have a problem with them with copies of your phone bill. But you don't have problems making Mark Zuckerberg the most powerfulest man in the world. See, they say the president of the United States is the most powerfulest man in the free world.
Okay.
And then you have Putin out there, too. But what I say is Mark Zuckerberg is more powerful than the president. Why? Because if the president wants to get copies of your phone bill, he has to go through Congress. It's going to be this big thing, because if he does it behind his back and someone goes out like Snowden and snitches on him, then the whole world is going to be in an uproar. But every single day, over 1 billion people around the world, 1 billion people around the world. Now remember, there's only 300 million people in the United States. That's who Obama's governed.
Mm-hmm.
Zuckerberg has 1.1 billion people on Facebook.
My goodness.
Now, these 1.1 billion people on Facebook give Mark, they tell him what they ate, where they're traveling to. This is my mother. This is my father. This is my girlfriend. I'm in a relationship with this woman today. Tomorrow,
right.
We're not. It's complicated. I'm married. I'm divorced. You sit there and you tell Mark Zuckerberg
everything,
all your personal information.
Everything.
Now, let me tell you something that most people don't know. You can see it if you have an Android phone. Not only do you tell Mark Zuckerberg everything that you're doing and everything about your life, where you went to school, where you were born, you know, what college you went to, what frat or sorority you belong to, where you work, where you used to work, you know, all your affiliates, what music you like, what music you don't like, what foods, or what you're watching on TV right now as you're watching it. You will sit there and give it to Mark. But you have a problem with the government who's trying to protect you so you can have Facebook, so you can have you to sit at home and watch TV, so you can travel. You have a problem with them getting a copy of your doggone phone bill so they can track down some of these lone wolves or these terrorists to see who they're talking to here in America?
Sign me up, preacher. Sign me up. I'm on the wrong side of the aisle. I'm getting ready to join your church. You're making a lot of sense to me. You are making a tremendous amount of sense to me. Mr. Evans, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I'd like to have you tell us how we should be acting, how we should be responding with this power that we are pushing in terms of our technicals, our passing and willingness to give up information. And should we be, should Mark Zuckerberg be doing more to help us fight terrorism? We'll be right back after this short message.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
Did you know Cover California can help you find a low-cost quality health care plan that's absolutely right for you and your family? Did you know there's coverage for unexpected emergencies and everyday aches and pains? Did you know free preventative care like blood pressure and cholesterol screenings are also provided to stop small problems from getting bigger? Well, now you know.
Covered California. It's more than just health care. It's life care. Visit CoveredCA.com to find free, local, in-person help or enroll online by December 15th to have coverage by January 1st.
You're listening to Kcaa, your good neighbor along the way.
Empire Talks back. I'm Wallace Allen on the case for truth and justice with the right information to help improve the situation. Empire Talks back is brought to you by Covered California, not just health care, but life care. Brought to you by West Side Story News, the soul of the Empire, and the Improve Association, where referrals are real. That was very appropriate, Joe, you playing that good Jimi Hendrix, because I am speaking, we are listening to the Jimi Hendrix of cybersecurity. Greg D. Evans, smartest guy on these microphones for sure today, and we are very much appreciative for what he's got to tell us. We went into the break with him bringing me back into the church if I believe in our government's security system. I had moved out of that church, not been paying my tithes, but with that sermon that he gave us in the last segment, I have joined the church of I do believe in our government's cyber security, etc., whatever they want to do. I don't think Greg wanted me to go that far, but I'm stuck in there with it, Greg. We've got a few people calling. But before we get into them and give them the chance to ask their question, let me ask you to continue with your sermon and telling us what we should be doing to cooperate with our government's quest for information to allow them to be more effective in fighting terrorism. Can we count on them to do that if we cooperate?
Well, I do want to say this last point, and I got sidetracked in my sermon when I said if you have a cell phone, and I was talking about how powerful Mark Zuckerberg is.
Right.
Think about this. Not just Mark, and I'm not just picking on Mark. All app companies, okay? Every time you download an app, I don't care if it's on your iPhone or if it's on your Android. Most people don't do that. When you hit install or download or get, it tells you what you're giving these people access to. The guy who developed that program. And when you download those, especially if you have an Android, if you go into your application manager on an Android, you will see on your Facebook app, you're giving Facebook permission to access your pictures on your phone, your videos on your phone, all your contacts on your phone, your microphone, your camera on your phone, your call log on your phone, your text messages on your phone. You're giving them total access, and your GPS, your location on your phone. And you're giving that to a lot of these apps that you download, even your kids' apps that's 6 years old, and, Mommy, can I use your phone to play a game? And you just hand them the phone while you're driving just to keep them quiet, and you don't know who these people are. You're allowing these people, giving them permission to track your every move.
All of your downloads.
The people that you call.
Everything that you've done.
Everything about your life. You're giving them permission, but you got a problem with the federal government just wanting to look at copies of a phone bill.
Greg, when I was in high school, there was a book that was a required reading. It was called 1984. And it was a book, when I was in high school, 1984 was years away. But it projected that, we would be under constant surveillance and that the government was, behind a big scheme to record and keep us under control. Well, we've moved into that era. The big difference, however, is that instead of the government or anyone having to chase us down to get this information, it's just like you said, we give it away. We actually pay people to take that information from us.
Pay them. That's a good point.
Yes.
We pay them so they can track everything that we do. We voluntarily giving our personal freedoms. Now, I just want everybody in America
get mad if the app doesn't work.
One thing.
We'll get mad if the app doesn't work. We'll get mad if they don't take our application.
We got it for free and it don't work. But you got to understand, the app could have been spyware the whole time.
Absolutely.
No, it didn't work the way you thought, because the only thing that the true purpose for the app was to get access to your cell phone. Because on your cell phone is your real life. It's not about hacking your computer. People keep more of their information on a cell phone now than they do on a personal computer. Think about all the text messages, the arguments you've had with your girlfriends, your wives, your husbands, the bad things you said about your boss, all of that, all through a text message. Let me just say this too. If the federal government really wanted to know what you're doing, all they have to do is send a subpoena from a federal judge right on over there to Mark at Facebook and say, we want to give them full access to Gregory Evans' Facebook account. Now, do you know what that means? That means that they can look at all our messages, all my pictures. Understand this. You can't delete a Facebook account. If you go in right now to try to disable or deactivate your account, and you come back tomorrow, next week, next year, 10 years from now, and you type in the same email address and same password, it comes right back up with all your same friends, the last post you put up there, all your pictures and everything. They never get rid of it. So if someone wants to track you, this government, they just send a doggone subpoena over. Now, when they send that subpoena over, by you having that Facebook application on your phone, now the government can track you through your phone using Facebook, not going through the cell phone company.
Now, the strange thing about that is I was watching, once again, some videos on GregoryDEvans.com. The government becomes one issue, but I was warned as I watched that there are many other people who can take your information and do much worse with it than the government just following you around. We're talking about another brand of terrorism. We're talking to the man who at one point in his life claimed to be the greatest hacker in the world. Do you still claim that title, Mr. Evans?
No,
but you do. But
that
you
was
do.
Fine. That was fine back in not before
but
June
the role
1997.
but the role of a hacker has not changed in terms of helping to develop new ways to understand and make things occur. I've heard you say that in other countries, young people, 6, 7, 8 to 10 years old, are learning how to operate a computer with the idea that hacking is one of their training tools. Am I correct?
This is true, and let me tell you the reason why. In this country, we are so big on entertainment and sports. We start teaching our kids at young ages, you're going to buy mama a house, you go out here and play football or basketball, okay? Or you're going to be the next pop singer or next rapper or whatever. And so we're teaching our kids that entertainment and being an athlete is the way to be successful in America. Whereas in China or over in India, what they're teaching their kids is that in elementary, they're learning how to program in PHP. And, by the time they get to high school, they're hacking in computers. When Google got hacked about 3-4 years ago, when they got hacked, they traced it back to a high school in China. So that means that these kids came to school, and you know how it was when we were in school. You come to class and the teacher says, okay, pop quiz, right? Pull out your book. Well, over there, they say pop quiz, shut down Google. This is why the United States will never win the cyber war.
My goodness. What do you suggest, Greg, what do you suggest we do? And as we move into that, let me say that the phone lines are lit up. There's a couple of people who would like to ask you a question.
Let's take some of their questions.
Let's take a couple of calls. Give me David from England.
Hello, thank you. Yes, I must say my battery's running low on my phone.
Ask that question real quick, then. Ask that question real quick, David.
I completely support everything your colleague there is saying. I also support his righteousness, and when it comes from the high, it is easy. But the logic of what he's saying speaks for itself. But because it's a very logical argument, you would have to start, and this would improve on your excellent speech already, you could start actually saying...
David, do you have a question?
Know that bit of information? So say, like, for example...
David, do you have a question?
Say,
David.
My question would be... What would be my question?
Yes. What is your question?
What would be my question? Do you think you could increase the strength of your argument by increasing the... So when you say something, you could, if it's a logical thing and you know it's quotable and you know you didn't invent it, give us a source. I know it sounds silly, but then people will be even more engaged in the argument. So, like, if you say something like, because everyone knows that Facebook, if they could get a subpoena on your Facebook, now you know that, but maybe you could quote where you got that from. So I've read in various sources.
Which part? Which part would you like? Which part would you like out of my that you're saying you would like me to quote or the source?
All of it, because it's such a logical and argument. And
let me go back to my introduction, David.
Fact, isn't it?
Let me go back to my introduction. We're talking to one of the people who probably can tell you more about computers, what they do, than maybe 5 other people on the planet. In terms of expertise,
it sounds like he it's coming off the top of his head, or it might not be true.
Greg Evans had I guess maybe my introduction was just 2 weeks.
You could really bust. You could really lock people down with adding.
Well, here, let's just make it simple. Let me just make it real simple, because when I try to explain stuff, I try to explain it in layman terms.
Yeah, you've explained
it
very well.
Very simple. Okay, so it's very simple. If you pulled out, when I was talking about tracking you and the government using Facebook to track you, if you pulled out your cell phone right now, everybody who has an Android, pull it out and you go under your devices and then you go down to Application Manager. It shows you every app on your phone. And when you select one of those apps and you scroll down, it says permissions. And what that shows is what does this app have permission to do on your phone? And you will see that Facebook microphone, camera. How do you think you take pictures and then upload them right there into Facebook? They have to have access to your camera, or you and your microphone, because you're talking. And you'll see where they ask for your contacts. That's like when you go on Facebook, it says, do your app. It says, do you want to add your contacts to Facebook? Because now you gave them permission to access your contacts.
Are you clear on that?
Absolutely. You could go and validate it by saying, and then you could, and if you look on the website for this, that, and it also says it here, and then that would give you such a concrete, nobody could say anything, because what people will do.
Listen, this is already
because your argument is so good. People will use classical elements to subvert you. So what they'll say is
very practical.
What they'll say is it's not true. It's
David,
not true. What they'll say is not true. Or what they'll say is that you can't say that about all phones or something.
One of the things I found out about talk radio is that everybody's microphone works, but their receivers don't. It's interesting.
Oh no, sorry,
David, you're a great call. It's a great call, and we appreciate the call. One of the things that you're making me realize is that I'm not directing people quickly enough to GregoryDEvans.com, because all of your questions will be answered there. This young man has been interviewed on every major TV and radio program on the planet, BBC included, as well as CNN, and they've got
Algiers, all of them. And I show everything and break it on down. And I do want to move on to the next caller, because a lot of times people don't realize that when you're on TV or the radio, you only have so many minutes before commercial breaks or the show is over.
Speaking of which, we got to take a short break right now. Thank you for the transition. We're going to take a short break. David, you're welcome to stay on board. We're going to take our next caller. I believe that's Mr. Leonard Evans. Right after this very short break, we'll be right back. Mr. Evans, have your question. Oh, by the way, Mr. Evans, congratulations. We've got 2 Evanses coming up now. One, Leonard Evans, one of our associate hosts. He's been recovering from brain surgery. They had to cut out a little piece of his brain in order to make it more even for the rest of us. So we're going to get a chance to talk to 2 of the smartest people on the planet right after this short break.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
E-Digits. Lock them in for more information, recreation, and guaranteed fun. Kcaa.
This is Empire Talks Back, which is brought to you by Covered California, not just health care, but life care. We're speaking with Mr. Gregory D. Evans, the cyber expert, the computer security expert. Go to his website, GregoryDEvans.com. You will be delighted with all of the information that's available to you there. I hate to give you that because I'll tell you, I sat up and watched his website like I used to watch cartoons on Saturday. It is extremely interesting the way he presents information, and the information is vital. Our police here in the city of San Bernardino, the FBI, found a couple of cell phones that apparently belonged to the people who caused the shooting here on a couple of days ago. Mr. Evans has disclosed to us that SIM card is very valuable to the police and the FBI in its ability to track and trace where these people have been, who they've been talking to, etc. We also have an opportunity to have Mr. Leonard Evans. Mr. Leonard Evans, how are you doing? And your question for Mr. Greg Evans, please.
Very good. I do have a question, and I'm doing quite well, but I must caution you, because now when you ask me a question, you're liable to get an answer. It turns out that I heard the earlier part of the show, and it's very interesting that your life is on your cell phone. You mentioned about Facebook, Mr. Gregory Evans, and I wondered, suppose I had an idea that I was going to, say, sell to a manufacturer that was a marketing slogan that I expected to be paid for. It was in my cell phone. If they took it out, have they got it and they now own it?
Well, how did they take it out?
Yeah, if they
how would they have taken it out?
You have more knowledge about how it can be.
Well, if they took it out illegally.
What I'm suggesting is it has not yet been copyrighted and protected. It's just being temporarily stored there. They access it. How might that happen? And is there a way they could do it, and then they would own it, and they could sell the idea?
Well, there's two parts to that. One is a legal question, because you have to show that you owned it before they came out with it. That's going to be very hard for you to do. Two, the other part is, I want to clarify again, and it makes my business, and because I own high-tech, or I'm a member of High-Tech Crime Solutions investigations, what we see is that people have this myth by watching television shows that someone can just hack into your cell phone. And hacking into a cell phone is not easy. You can't just have someone's cell phone number and say, I want to hack into your cell phone. One, it's not like a computer. And even hacking into a computer is not easy, because in order to hack into a person's computer, you have to know their IP address. And your IP address is not something that's public. You can't Google a person's IP address, none of that. So you have to know how to get into a person's cell phone.
Okay.
Now, if you have an iPhone, it's hard as hell. That's not going to happen unless your iPhone is jailbroken. Now, if your iPhone is not jailbroken, you're not getting spyware on your phone. Now, if you have an Android, I'm just telling everybody out there, because I'm talking to you on an Android, but I also have an iPhone too. So I'm just letting you know right now that on an Android, it's very easy to get spyware and have someone spy on you. They can literally just send you a text message, and you click that text message, and it opens up. It can take control of your phone, meaning it can see everything on your phone, download your contacts, your pictures, your notes, anything you have stored on that phone, and it can track you as well. But the scary part is they can put information on your phone too that you didn't have.
Wait a minute. I'm getting nervous here because I'm in the news business, and people, text me. I put my number out there with the idea that, well, if you find something, you see something, call me.
You're okay. They can't just by you putting your personal cell phone out there. If someone sends you a link and you're running on an Android, don't say what type of phone you're running, okay?
Okay.
But if you're having an Android, someone sends you a link, you're curious, and says, hey, check out this news story, or I got this breaking news.
Right.
And you click that link, they could take control of your phone, and you wouldn't even know.
Okay, I'm scared now. You got me. How do I join? How do I pay my tithes into this church of yours, Greg, so that I can be protected?
Well, that's the other thing. That's a whole different conversation.
And we're going to have that in the future. We're going to have that in the future because you're not a person that sees problems without also seeing the opportunity to solve them. That's the thing that makes you. Well,
here's the problem, though, and I'm just telling you, and it's the truth. I remember one time I was watching the TV show The Wire, and one of the guys says, "So what's the game like? Who used to be in the game and stuff like that?" And he says, "It's just more fierce," and that's the same thing as computer hacking now. Remember, when I was doing it before 97, you knew, you were around, you saw how I did right there in San Bernardino, Riverside County. So you saw what I was doing and the money that could be made. But the stuff I was doing was small time. It is so fierce right now. The game has changed right now, majorly. And it's not getting better, it's getting worse.
You mean in terms of what people are able to do to breach the security of a telephone, the computer system, and all of the technical messages that they send, being able to, it's one thing to be able to order something and have it delivered. It's something else to be able to take over cell phones all over the planet because of an application that you've got out. And then what do they do with the cell phones when they take charge of them, Greg? What is the danger there?
I'm gonna let everyone know
your website. So we have your web address.
GregoryDEvans.com. GregoryDEvans.com. And that's just the letter D. It's not the word DEE. It's Gregory D. Evans. There's no period after the D. GregoryDEvans.com.
I appreciate that.
I just lost a bunch of listeners. I'm sure I just lost a bunch of listeners as they go over to your website, but that's okay. They'll be back.
But I want to warn all your listeners when they're talking about having their information stolen or taken. Do you know you have a better chance of having your information stolen at your cell phone provider or at, maybe a Geek Squad or somewhere like that than you would from the federal government? Now, what I mean by that, and I'm not saying, there's been stories about Geek Squad, but when you take your phone in for repair, right, with all your personal pictures, those videos and everything, and you go over to your cell phone provider and it's like, hey, my phone is not working, or I want to upgrade my phone to the new one, and you haven't erased everything off your phone, or you hand it to them just to repair something, and that they take it in the back to someone else, these people are going through your pictures, going through your videos. They're going through all your stuff on your phone.
There is a method for
giving them full access to your whole house with no one home.
Mr. Evans, there is a video on your website that depicts that information and how to solve it. I'd like to take this last 3 minutes of our program and get you to tell us, what should we be doing to fight terrorism with our use of our Facebook, with the use of our social media? Is there a solution? Is there a route for us to fight?
This is what needs to happen. First of all, here in America, what we need to do, we invented entertainment. We invented social media. All the major social media companies are not overseas. They're right here. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, even MySpace going way back into the day. All of that is United States based. So the United States, these corporations who think that they're bigger than the government, which they are in a lot of ways, they feel like, you know what, they could be doing their part when it comes to terrorism.
Okay.
Soon as the word ISIS should not even be able to be spelled on Twitter or on Facebook or on Google+. Google can block. Yahoo can block. Bing, owned by Microsoft, can block all these search terms people use to find all these terrorist websites. But do they do it? No, not at all.
Where's the pressure point to make them do it, Greg? What do we need to do?
Well, you would think by them being an American company, the loyalty, being patriot to your own country. And what you're saying and what they're saying to you is like it's freedom of speech. It's freedom of speech, but that's not true.
Well, we see large corporations moving their money out of the country when in fact
it doesn't matter, because here we go. Let me tell you, it's the country itself.
Okay.
Because if somebody says anything bad about you here in the United States, and they can Google you, and there's something bad about you, and you want it off, Google says freedom of speech. But if you live in London, in England, anywhere in Europe, and you see something in Google that you want removed, all you do is contact Google, and Google removes it out of the search engine. They don't take it off the person's website, but they take it out their search results so people can't find it.
So
now, the reason why is it's a law because everybody has a right to privacy. But here in the United States, they say, well, everybody has a law to right to privacy and can say anything they want because of the Fifth Amendment.
So privacy does not necessarily require that you also be able to talk crazy about any and everyone that you may want to do that with.
Or try to ruin someone's reputation or hurt someone. So, like I said, same company, Google, in Europe, they take stuff out. You just tell Google, I want this removed out of your searching.
So what do we do in the United States to get Google to respond like that? We need to change some laws?
Nothing. We need to change laws. But then the same people who are sitting there talking about the NSA and getting copies of your phone bills, they're going to start screaming, freedom of speech, freedom of speech.
Not me, because I would have been in that crowd earlier in the program, about an hour ago. I was that guy, but I've been to the Church of Gregory D. Evans, and I've been converted. I'm much more the believer in the government having more power over the flow of that digital information, certainly to be able to access it. I was under the impression that maybe they're not listening to, but recording all of the phone messages. Greg, I've been talking on the phones for 20 years as though somebody else was listening. Well, longer than that, 40 years, simply because, once again, being an activist. But I appreciate your information. I encourage people to go to GregoryDEvans.com. Mr. Evans, I'd love to have you join us again in the future, and I appreciate you for all you've done. And once again, talking to you is like listening to Jimi Hendrix play that guitar. And everybody that knows me knows I love that. Listen, Empire Talks Back, brought to you by Covered California, not just healthcare, but life care. West Side Story newspaper, the soul of the Empire, and the Improve Association, where referrals are real. We want to thank you for joining us today. We will hopefully join you next week under two circumstances. One, if the good Lord's willing, and two, if the creek don't rise. God bless you. Get well, Mr. Evans. We love you. Thank you.
Thank you.
But we won't let nothing hold us back. Gonna put ourselves together.
This is 1050 AM KCAA Loma Linda and 106.5 FM Yucaipa.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now.
Week 13 in the NFL. There are 9 games underway right now, including in the second quarter. Arizona 7 over the Cardinals, nothing. In the second quarter, Tampa Bay leads Atlanta 7-3. Baltimore and Miami are scoreless. Andy Dalton has 2 touchdown passes. Cincinnati leads Cleveland 14-0. Buffalo leads Houston 14-6. Tennessee over Jacksonville by the same 14-6 score. At the Meadowlands in